Well, good morning and welcome to the Internet Business Blueprint Podcast. This is James Holmes, your host, and I want to welcome you to another episode as we continue to explore the 11 Forgotten Laws. This is part of an ongoing series that we've been started actually last week, and that'll take us through this week and maybe into a day or two of next week. One quick note is that I will be actually hosting a second podcast episode today. That is as a result of yesterday, which was just a crazy day, where had a lot of activity just in business. I think that with things going on in the economy and a couple of companies really going through some struggles right now, yesterday was just a big day for calling back prospects, and so I kept moving. If you follow the show, you know I kept moving the our time. And eventually ended up just having to kind of fold the tent on the day. And so today I'm going to actually deliver the training that was intended for yesterday in this episode. And then at 2 o'clock Eastern Time, I'm going to come back and actually present the lesson that was intended for today. So the law of increase will be our training for today. And then at 2 o'clock, we're going to cover the law of compensation. And again, this is the 11 Forgotten Laws. It's based on Raymond Hollywell's work that is called Working with the Laws, and comes from my personal study of Bob Proctor and Mary Morrissey's great program that is called the 11 Forgotten Laws. And if you want to pick up a copy of that, it is available both in a physical product for delivery to your door, or you could also, at a 60% discount, pick up a digital download version, which is what I did. And if you go to my blog at www.askjamesholmes.com, you'll be able to see that in the blog post I've got videos of these simulcast Ustream programs and a replay of the podcast on the blog. And then at the bottom of each of the posts that relates to working with the law, I've got a link to the course, and so you can actually acquire that either way, and I'd highly recommend it. It's just tremendous, and it's been a real blessing for me to go through it, and as I said, has inspired my desire to share it with you. So if you're looking to follow up on anything that you hear on our program, whether it's this episode or a past episode, the best place again to turn to is going to be www.askjamesholmes.com, which is my primary blog, and from there you should be able to connect with me. One thing that I am offering there still on an ongoing basis is if you look on the two things actually I want to tell you about. One is if you look upper right hand corner, you'll see an area where it says schedule your complimentary consultation. And what that is if you click on that button that says book now, it'll take you to my online calendar. And if you pick a time slot, a 30-minute time slot that fits your schedule, enter your name, email address, and phone number, I'll call you at the appointed time, and we'll basically spend 30 minutes together talking about your business and seeing if there's some things that I can do to add some value in terms of advice or recommended resources, whatever it would be. I'm interested in just connecting with you as a listener or a viewer of this program. So that's number one. The other thing is during the month of August, I'm putting together a package that I call the Big Give event. It's $1,000 in value of digital products that come from my personal product vault. And if you fill in the form that's on the blog, putting your name and email address, what I'll do is I will email you a confirmation right away, and then you'll receive access to the vault, and you'll be able to download as many of those materials as you'd like. Coming up here in just a few days. So I want to make you aware of that and certainly suggest to take advantage of that. So let's talk about today's lesson, which is working with the law of increase. And you'll notice, and this is interesting, this is one of the things that just in going through the study myself that really made an impression on me. My personal mission statement is and has been for a long time to sow increase into the lives of others by co-creating wealth and abundance. And this whole study of the law of increase was really just spot on for me personally, because although I knew that the whole idea of delivering praise and increase to other people and seeking to do that in many ways, including that of creating wealth, in leading to abundance and prosperity for other people was something that I held very closely. But to see it actually included in this training of the 11 Forgotten Laws was really gratifying to me, and was very impactful. So this lesson in particular I just love. I want to give just a quick recap of where we've been so far in terms of the previous lessons, in case you haven't been following the whole series. And what I would definitely recommend is, if you've missed any of the prior episodes in this series, that you go back and listen to them, because I definitely go into some great detail and I give you some actionable steps at the end of each lesson to actually impact your business and life in a powerful way immediately. So the first lesson was the law of thinking, and the concept behind that was that your thoughts become things. And you've heard me say numerous times that your current results, where you're at today, has everything to do with your current and present most dominant thoughts. So if your thoughts are of prosperity and of abundance, if your thoughts are generally positive, and your image that you're holding in your mind is very clear on what it is that you want to create in your business and your life, then your results are going to dictate that and be evidence of that. Just on the counter of that, if you're in a mode of scarcity, if your self-image is poor, and you're operating from a position of lack, that thought or idea likewise is going to result in you having results that support those thoughts. And so the idea behind the law of thinking is to hold in your mind a very clear image of where you want to be, what you want to create, what you're seeking to attract into your business and your life, and that by doing that, you will begin to attract to you the opportunities, the people, the resources necessary, and you'll begin to see the evidence of your thoughts and in your life, the thoughts you want. I mean, the evidence you have now may not be what you want, but it first begins with where your thoughts are. And so it's a very critical lesson, and it's where Hollywell starts off in working with the law. The second is the law of supply. And again, we talk about the whole idea of scarcity versus abundance. And the law of supply basically says that there is an infinite supply of every resource that you need to accomplish whatever it is you're seeking to accomplish. So in your business, the reality is there's no scarcity of people that would be interested in coming into your business. There is no scarcity of opportunities. There's no scarcity of resources in any way. It's just having a belief, a strong enough belief in that, and learning how to attract that abundance to you. And it goes back again to the whole idea of what you're thinking about. If you're walking around thinking that there's no abundance of prospects, that no one's going to want to get involved in your business, or you're thinking there's no resources, financial resources, time resources, people, etc., then that's what you'll attract to yourself. And so the idea behind the law of supply is the recognition and really owning the truth that there is an abundance of everything you need. There's an infinite supply of everything you need. Now let me take that a step further. We talked about the example in the actual lesson of Thomas Edison inventing the light bulb. And the reality, if you really think about it, that everything he needed in terms of supply, the raw materials that he needed to begin to experiment with his idea, his thought, and create prototypes and experiment and have successes and failures along the way to ultimately being able to create that light bulb, that all the supply already existed. It wasn't that the supply wasn't there, it just was a matter of Edison taking his thoughts and bringing together the resources he needed, attracting to himself the knowledge, attracting to himself the materials, the raw materials and opportunities that actually brought about the invention of the light bulb. And so it's the same concept in your business in terms of supply. So even if you don't have it in your hand right now, it's not manifest for you right now, if you just can understand and believe and hold closely the idea that everything you need is out there in abundant supply, then you will begin to attract those things to you. The third law is the law of attraction itself. And this is the one that most of us know about because it's the one that's most popular. And largely it's popular because of the film and the book The Secret. But as I said in the lesson that we went through on the law of attraction, that it's much bigger than that. The Secret was great because it really did, popularize and bring to consciousness of most people the basic concept of the law of attraction. But the film The Secret wasn't the creating force. It wasn't what brought The Secret to fold. It has been here, and it's ancient and it's biblical. The law of attraction is a biblical principle, and it's an ancient principle. And it's just a matter of really understanding it, which again, my whole idea and the reason behind diving into these 11 forgotten laws was that I wanted to have a deeper understanding of the law of attraction. Now, where did that come from? Well, when I saw that film, it had an effect on me. I believed in a lot of those principles really my entire life. And I shared the story, I think, on a prior episode. We're back in 1995 or 1996, where I had was really at a place of a new beginning. And a friend had recommended to me the idea of putting together a vision board. Although it wasn't called that at the time, I have since taken that term and really titled it as that, based largely on John Asseroff's testimony that he had given in the film The Secret. But back in 1994, 95, 96, right in that time frame, I had created my first vision board and had really brought about for myself in my life dramatic results through the process of just imaging. Because the magic behind a vision board is all you're doing is you're creating visual triggers to remind yourself and to be able to behave in a sense of consistency of what it is that you're looking to attract into your life. What is it that you're looking to create in terms of results? And so by having this visual board filled with images and words that create an emotional response that you look at consistently, and I say daily, put it in a prominent place, you begin to find yourself at a level of vibration that is tuning into the frequency of what it is you're looking to attract. And so just like with a radio, if you're sitting there listening to a rock and roll station, but you seek to listen to jazz, then my suggestion is that you go to a different frequency, because you're not going to get jazz on your rock and roll station. And it's the same thing with us in life. If we're walking around seeking to create abundance, you're seeking to create financial results that are positive for us, you're seeking to attract people into our business, but we're walking around at a frequency that is a scarcity frequency, a fear-based frequency, a doubting frequency, then it's not going to be possible to attract the abundance. And even if you attract elements of the abundance, elements of the success, you won't even recognize it because you're just not on the right frequency. So the radio is really the perfect analogy for the way the law of attraction works. It's all about getting yourself, because we are all walking around in a world that is based on energy. Everything is energy. When you take basic science and break it down to its smallest parts, we're all walking around, we're just a big bundle of energy. And so it's a matter of where it is we're resonating. What frequency are we at? And is that frequency consistent with what it is that we're looking to attract in our lives? And so that's the law of attraction. The way you activate the law of attraction is to first be really clear on what you want. What is it you really want? And then you have to go to the place of asking for that. And if that's done through prayer, if that is your religious practice and your faith-based practice, if you go through the process of meditation, if that is more in keeping with the way that you feel you can get really clear mentally and emotionally, whatever the practice is that works for you, you want to put yourself in a place of being able to get there and then be very clear about what you want, and be able to hold an image of what you want very clearly in your mind. So asking. And then once you've asked, you need to have the expectation that you're going to actually receive it. It doesn't do any good to hold very clearly an image in your mind of exactly what you want, and then to go through the process of prayer and meditation and ask for that you're looking to attract, if you don't in the end expect to receive it, right? So the expectation, the belief that it will come to pass, that you'll attract what you need to attract, is a critical component. And if you've ever been in a position where you looked at these principles and said, well, I'm going to give it a try, and I'm going to do the first two parts. I'm going to be very clear in knowing what I want. I'm going to clearly hold an image in my mind about what it is I want. And I'm going to ask for what I want, but if you didn't expect to receive it, you've defeated it before you even began. So it's really critical to be really clear about what you want, to ask for what you want, and then just as important as the other two elements, to make sure that you expect to receive it, and then be patient and wait for it to unfold. And it's amazing what will happen. I can speak to that myself, and I still own that vision board. I should bring that to this program one of these days, and maybe I'll do that tomorrow, or maybe this afternoon. I'll do it on the podcast and actually show you that vision board that I created back in the mid '90s, and it's a powerful thing. It really is. So finally, we talked on our last episode must have been, let's see, on Tuesday, about the law of receiving. And the law of receiving, we talked about where you need to be in terms of giving to activate receiving. So there's a real connection between you walking around in your business and in your life and giving. So giving can certainly be financial. We think about tithing. And I shared a story, my personal story about tithing, and how I worked myself through a financial challenge, several years ago, 10 or 11 years ago, just through tithing, and how powerful that was for me, how powerful of a lesson that was for me. But in addition to giving of your financial resources, you can also give of your talent, okay? Or of other resources. Give of your time. So in the act of giving, you're setting yourself up and opening yourself up to receive. And so that was a powerful lesson on Monday about the law of receiving. And that brings us to today. And today's law, as I said earlier, is the law of increase. The law of increase. And you can think of the law of increase in another way, and that is the law of praise. So if you think about where your position is, and think back over the last 30 days, or the last 6 months, or the last year, is your posture one where you're looking for opportunities to praise? And when I say looking for opportunities to praise, I'm talking about circumstances. I'm talking about situations that you're coming across in your life. I'm talking about people. Are you looking to praise where you're at and your present results? And is your mindset one that you're always looking day to day for praise and looking to praise? And through that praise, you're sowing increase into everything you're praising. The basic premise in Hollywell's work is that whatever you praise grows. And if you think about praising in a physical sense, if you water a plant, you're sowing increase into that plant, and it's going to grow, right? If you think about relationships, there's been studies done about children and the way children are brought up. And children that are criticized in their upbringing are very insecure. They grow up to be very insecure kids and very insecure adults. On the other side of that, children that are grown up in an environment of praise have a strong self-image, and they have a lot of self-confidence, and they go through the world in a very powerful way. So we know that the actual physical result, whether it's in watering a plant or praising a child, that the idea of praise sows increase and causes whatever you praise to expand and grow. The second principle is that through this law, we stimulate that which is good in ourselves. So try this sometime. Next time you're in a restaurant, or you walk into a Starbucks and you order your coffee, be really mindful of praising the person that's helping you, and watch the reaction on their face when you say something that is praising them, and then recognize how it makes you feel. So you give out this gift of praise, this gift of increase. You see that reflected back to you from the face of the person you just praised, and then recognize how that makes you feel. And it really sets you up to be in a much more powerful position as you go through your day in terms of accepting abundance yourself and accepting and praise yourself. And that's a very easy way. If you doubt what I say today, then as soon as we're off this podcast, I want you to get in your car or get on your bike and head down to your local Starbucks and invest $1.80 on a cup of coffee and do what I just suggested. Praise the person that's serving you, and watch what happens to them, and in turn watch how that reflects upon you and how that makes you feel. And then you'll know what I'm saying is true. The third principle is that praise is not new. it's like all these 11 laws we're talking about. These aren't New Age concepts. These aren't concepts that are, anti-Christian or anti-Western religion or anti-Eastern religion. These are all ancient concepts that you'll find, if you look, that are consistently displayed in all religions of the world, in all practices that go back to the dawn of time. And if you think about the term sowing increase, when I say that, to sow increase, I think that has a connotation for most people that they look back and say that sounds like that guy must be, religious, because the principle is a religious principle. And so it's not new. It's known throughout the ages. You also want to recognize that praise is an amplified feeling of appreciation. And so what you're actually doing by praising something, praising someone, some circumstance, some result, is you're taking your feelings about that and you're amplifying them. You're putting power behind them. And that will serve you very well. And then, speaking of gratitude, that when you praise, what you're doing is you're bringing about a feeling of well-being. So there's actually a biofeedback component to praising. And it's just the same thing. It's just the opposite with condemning. If you walk around looking for a fight, expecting the worst of every situation, of every person that you encounter, if you walk around expecting to be disappointed, if you walk around expecting to be rejected, if you walk around expecting failure, I would guess that none of you would argue with me that you would end up getting what you expect, that pretty much will be your result, and it's really true. And so the idea is that when you speak gratitude, that it's going to set you up for generally being in a position of well-being, not just in your mind or in your spirit, but also in your physical body. And that you'll just generally feel better. And so it's just a powerful thing. This whole idea of increase in praise is a very powerful thing. I want to give you 5 principles that I want you to really be aware of as we continue to look at this idea of praise. The first one is praise is an avenue of prayer. And what I mean by that is it's a lifting of your consciousness. So, in most traditions, and I'm not, like I said, I think in a prior episode, I'm not a student of religions of the world or anything like that at all. But I know from my own Christian experience and from friends I have that are of other faiths, that praise is a consistent thing in prayer. In fact, I think if you think about the Christian religion and the Christian faith, that you begin prayer by praising God. You begin your prayer not with what you are bringing forth as your petitions, but you begin that prayer with praise to open up the heart of God, right? And so the principle behind that is that prayer or praise is an avenue of prayer, and it's a avenue that causes us to have an elevated consciousness. That's number 1. Number 2 is that praise opens our ability to receive good. So again, if your heart is open to praise, then your heart is open to receive good, because that's what's going to reflect back to you. So that's number 2. Number 3 is I want to share with you a concept that I read about in this series of lessons, and it's in Hollywell's work about a gentleman by the name of Roy Fox. And Mary Morrissey shares the story that Roy Fox gives an example where he has this theory that he can cause the tips that any waiter or waitress receives, to cause them to grow by 2 to 3 times in a 30-day period if they just do one simple thing. And this is what that is. And by the way, Roy Fox says he's tried this numerous times and almost without exception has heard the feedback that this actually has worked exactly 2 to 3 times an increase in a 30-day period, the amount of money earned by a waiter or waitress through their tips. And this is what his secret is. What they must do is, as they approach every table, and this isn't an outward verbal praising, but an inward praising, that they are to praise the person that they're about to serve, whoever the individual is or the family is or the number of people at that table, not knowing anything at all about their lives, what their challenges are, their successes, what they may be going through, what they're bringing in terms of their own attitudes. but they're to praise those individuals as they approach those tables, that they're to praise their lives, give out praise and gratitude for their results, and set up for them from a mental standpoint and an emotional standpoint a general feeling of well-being. And again, not to verbalize it. They're not to go there in any verbal way, but just within their own heart. And that heartfelt feeling of praise will change their expression and will cause them to sow increase into those people they're about to serve. And what has always been reported back, almost without exception, is that it actually worked. In a 30-day period, people were seeing themselves seeing bigger tips. And let me say to you, and it's the same cautionary word that Mary gave when she shared this story, and that is this: if you feel like that's a little bit out there, that's a little bit of a feeling, feels a little new age to you, what I would say to you is to follow the advice of Mary Morrissey, which is suspend your disbelief for a moment and try it, put it into action, and then judge it. Once you've done that. So number 4 is putting aside your disbelief, just as I've just said, and setting it aside long enough to actually try it. Okay, that's number 4. Number 5 is commit to maintaining an attitude of praise and thanksgiving. So what I want to do before we wrap up, because Mary Morrissey in such a perfect way really closes out this particular lesson. And I want to share it with you because it's very powerful. And I'm going to read it to you because I don't want to mess it up because it's that beautiful. And that is this: that Raymond Hollywell ends this session on the law of increase with 3 tremendous examples of really dramatic experience people had through practicing the law of increase with the activity of praise. But someone may listen to these examples or read it in a book and then ask themselves, well, what happens when things don't work out the way we wanted them to? What happens when we're praising and then somebody we love dies? Or what happens when we're praising and one of our dreams fail? Where in human experience, and in a human experience, having what we want and having what we don't want at times are both equally good for us, because they help us learn. Just as you're learning the law of mathematics, making a mistake gives you the opportunity through the understanding of what you did that was a mistake to then take your new learning and reapply it to the circumstances and bring about an answer that you would not have seen otherwise. There's always an answer greater than the problem. But in the learning experience called human life, there are things that happen that are difficult to the human experience. We don't lose people we love. We do lose people we love. That's a fact. We do have what we consider to be from a human point of view, failure. Nevertheless, the power of this law of increase is that not always increase in these things. It's not always increase in the material realm, but it is always increase in consciousness, in understanding, in relationship to one's own being and the law of life. So through the activity and the practice of praise, it doesn't always change things, but it always changes the person. And there is always the blessing that comes from the change of our relationship to the law of life. How it works in our experience of the openness and that brings for exactly what we've been hoping for, to make itself manifest in our lives. So it's a very powerful way for us to end, and it's a real gift that Mary has given us in terms of that as an ending. What I would say to you is that you want to take action on the law of increase, and that you want to set up for yourself the idea that you're praising your company, you're praising your leadership, you're praising your team members, you're praising your prospects, you're praising your current results, and you're praising the goals and aspirations you have in what you want to create for yourself in your business as you go forward. So take this lesson to heart, put it into practice, and I think you'll develop for yourself some powerful results in your life. Thank you for being with me, and as always, I want to tell you how much I appreciate you that listen, watch, and read the lessons we have, and that you would take all of this and add it to your life, and so increase in the lives of others as a result. Thank you very much, and as always, I wish for you a very blessed day. Thank you for being with me today.